Today you are going to learn about I&D of TIDE. So let's focus on the I first. I stands for important evidence. And this evidence is going to be taken from the text that you're using to support what you're writing, your thesis or your claim. The important evidence is the proof that's going to support your claim, and it's usually direct quotes in quotation marks from the text. So let's look a little bit more of what that means. So remember, I put the I and the D together. But with the evidence, that is where we cite specific examples from the text. So a sentence or a phrase that's going to support your idea, what you're trying to say. So word or phrase, and you're going to use quotation marks if it's a direct quote. So if you're copying exactly from the text. So let's go into our exemplar essay that we've been looking at. You should have already highlighted the green, the topic introduction, and the red, the ending or the conclusion. So now we're looking at our body paragraphs, all the stuff in the middle. So I'm going to focus on this first paragraph, and I want to look for textual evidence. So I'm looking for a quote in this paragraph. So let's read the paragraph. And when I see a quote, I'm going to stop and I'm going to highlight that yellow because that's what I is. I is yellow. In Hachiko, the true story of a loyal dog, the author proves that animals show happiness just like humans. Okay, there's my topic sentence. The text states, his entire body wiggling and quivering with delight, his eyes shone and his mouth curled up into something that looked to me just like a smile. Okay, I'm going to stop right here because I see a quotation mark here and a quotation mark here. So this is my quote, and I can tell because the sentence starter says the text states. So I know this is coming right from the text. And because it's in quotation marks, that means it's a direct quote. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight that yellow. All right, let's continue and see if there's any more important evidence. This shows that Hachiko was acting joyful. Humans might show joy in other ways, like jumping up and down or clapping. Dog owners might feel like they can relate to their pets when they show joy, and this strengthens their relationship. Okay, so I didn't see any more textual evidence in this paragraph. I don't see any more quotation marks, and I don't see any sentence starters that are giving me clues that I'm quoting something from the text. So let's look at the next paragraph. In my life with the chimpanzees show that they can be afraid just like humans. The author states, quote, they were afraid of the strange white-skinned creature that was I and gave their barking alarm call. So I'm going to stop here because here are my quotation marks again. And I have a sentence starter that says the author states. That's a clue that what comes after that is textual evidence. So I'm going to highlight this whole sentence, and that's going to be yellow for textual evidence. This proves that the animals were skeptical of Jane, even though she didn't want to hurt them. The chimps were probably fearful because they'd never seen a human. Gombe National Park was home to animals and trees and bushes, but not many humans. The author states, okay, that's a clue. The author states that Jane was afraid too. Quote, I saw the dark shape of a large animal looming in front of me. I stood quite still. My heart began to beat fast, for I realized it was a buffalo. I'm going to stop here because I have quotation marks, so I know this is a direct quote from the text of my life with the chimpanzees, and I also have that clue at the beginning of the sentence that's telling me that this is from the text. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that yellow. Jane understood the emotion of fear, so she could be sympathetic to the chimpanzees. Okay, so I have now highlighted all of my important evidence yellow, my textual evidence. It's evidence from my text, Hachiko and My Life with the Chimpanzees, that's supporting my claim or my thesis that humans and animals might appear to be very different, but they both share the ability to show joy and happiness and fear. So my yellow is highlighted. So let's go back over and look at what the examination is, the D. So the D stands for detailed examination. Remember, that is your thinking. So it explains why you chose that specific piece of evidence, what we just highlighted in yellow. It explains how your evidence supports your claim, your thesis. So when we are making a detailed examination, we use some sentence starters, and if we see any of these sentence starters in our writing, this is a clue that that's going to be our examination, our thinking. So we could use this shows that because, this means that because, this proves that because, this suggests that, this implies that, or this is important because. So these are some really good sentence starters that you can use in your writing to start your detailed examination. So let's jump back into our text to see if we can find our examination. So let's keep an eye out for some of these key sentence starters. Oh, and I forgot to highlight this part in yellow. Okay. In Hachiko, the true story of a loyal dog, the author proves that animals show happiness just like humans. Okay, so that's our topic sentence. We're not going to highlight that. We already found our textual evidence in yellow, so let's keep reading. This shows, bing, 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 that's a key word. This shows that Hachiko was acting joyful. Okay, that's part of my detailed examination. It's the writer's thinking. Humans might show joy in other ways, like jumping up and down or clapping. Dog owners might feel like they can relate to their pets when they show joy, and this strengthens their relationship. So this was not in the text at all. So this is the author's thinking. So all of this is part of the detailed examination. And we can tell because it starts with a sentence starter that says, this shows. So this evidence is showing that Hachiko is acting joyful, and the author explains even more in the last two sentences, their own thinking. So let's look at the next paragraph. In My Life with the chimpanzees show that they can be afraid just like humans. So that's an excellent topic sentence. We have our textual evidence. So let's read after that. It says, this proves, I think that was on our list over here. This proves that animals were skeptical of Jane. So what proves that animals were skeptical of Jane? Oh, the textual evidence. So this has to be the author's detailed examination, their thinking. This proves that the animals were skeptical of Jane even though she didn't want to hurt them. The chimps were probably fearful because they'd never seen a human. Gombe National Park was home to animals and trees and bushes, but not many humans. So again, this is not coming from the text. This is coming from the author's mind. It's their thinking. So that is the detailed examination, which we highlight in orange. We have another piece of textual evidence that we highlighted. So let's continue reading the rest of this paragraph to see if there's more of a detailed examination. The author states that Jane was afraid too. I saw the dark shape of the large animal looming in front of me. I stood quite still. My heart began to beat fast, for I realized it was a buffalo. Jane understood the emotion of fear, so she could be sympathetic to the chimpanzees. Okay, so this sentence does not have a sentence starter, But we know that this is the author's thinking. This is not from the text. The author is trying to convey that from this evidence, we can see that Jane understands the emotion of fear. So this is going to be highlighted in orange. This is the author's thinking, the detailed examination. So now if we look at our writing, we can see we have our green, the topic introduction. Our first paragraph has our topic sentence, and I like to highlight this in green just so that I know it's a topic sentence. We have our textual evidence, our important evidence. We have our detailed examination in orange. In our second paragraph, we have another good topic sentence that's talking about we're using another text, My Life with the Chimpanzees. And in this text, the author is going to talk about how the chimpanzees show that they can be afraid. And so we see that with the two pieces of textual evidence. And we also see that the author uses their ideas, their thinking, to explain this evidence that they chose. So just by looking at this, we can see we have all the components of TIDE. We have the T, we have the I, we have a D. We have an I, we have a D, we have an I, we have a D, and we have the E, the ending. So this is what we use when we are doing TIDE. We like to highlight everything so we can quickly look to make sure that we have all of those components. Your exemplar should be highlighted just like this. So please make sure you do that.